I'm Idiotech, and this is my review of Planet Coaster for PC. The game retails for $45 US and is brought to you by Frontier Developments. So what is Planet Coaster? Well, for those of you who've played Roller Coaster Tycoon, this is essentially the spiritual successor that many have been waiting for. So what's good about Planet Coaster? Well, first up, the visuals and art direction. It takes on a very cartoonish style which works beautifully for this type of game. It's very resource intensive because, quite frankly, there is a ton of detail. Everything down to burger stands and the various objects within the burger stands, all the way up to the quality of a roller coaster. This game shines when it comes to visual detail, and I think personally the art direction and aesthetic is very appealing. So it looks great, it sounds great, it's got a great soundtrack, it's great to listen to, it's great to look at, it's a wonderful game in terms of production values. We got 3 core game modes here. We have the career, which is a bunch of scenarios with problems for you to solve, so there may be a case where there aren't enough janitors to fix a park that continually breaks down for whatever reason, so you have to manage that particular aspect. There's 4 missions with 3 scenarios within each of those missions, and you can earn bronze, silver, and gold stars for those. It's okay as a mode. It basically serves to teach you the fundamentals of the game. It doesn't operate, in my opinion, as well as a proper tutorial would, but it will introduce you to some of the mechanics, and it will teach you the basics of building and how to manage a park. In my opinion though, the best thing it does is it shows you some great examples of how to create theme parks and how to really get creative when it comes to visually designing your own maps. So that's the first game mode. The second game mode is the Sandbox Mode. Now the Sandbox Mode is basically a mode where you have everything unlocked and you have unlimited resources and you can just go ahead and build the theme park of your dreams. I've put a lot of time into that. So far I've put about 30 hours into this game and I'm absolutely loving it. Finally, we have the challenge mode, which is kind of how I would view a career mode, but whatever. The challenge mode is the mode where you start a park from fresh, you have a certain amount of money, you can get loans, you have to research new rides and attractions, and you build up the business slowly, and that's where the real management element of the game comes in. So if you're looking for the management experience, you play challenge mode. If you're looking to just build a beautiful theme park, you play sandbox mode. And if you want to do some custom scenarios and solve some problems and learn how the basics of the game work, you play career mode. Next up, we have creative tools. The creative tools in this game are wonderful. The control you have when it comes to movement and position of certain objects is basically akin to something like 3ds Max or Maya. This is a full level editor, and the amount of customization available is insane, and that's proven when you go and look at the mods on Steam, which there are already thousands of, by the way. The creative tools are great. Basically the way it works is this: if you want to build a burger stall, you put down the basic box, which is the shop of the burger stall. Then from there, you use the various props and scenery to build out a building surrounding that box and make your own burger shop, essentially. You can do this with any object in the game. You can build any kind of building you want. You can build just scenery, or you can build functional items. You can also build your own roller coasters, as you would expect, and you can fully deck those out with scenery and all sorts of things. One great thing about the game is that the more scenery and the nicer your park looks, the more guests will be willing to pay for various things, such as food, tickets to roller coasters, tickets to rides, which is great because it encourages creativity. It forces you away from just min-maxing and being as efficient as possible. It forces you to make beautiful parks, which I think is a great game mechanic. If you've played other management tycoon games in any other style, whether it be theme parks or hospitals or whatever, the creative tools here are pretty much second to none. They're wonderful, and if you go look at the mod support in the Steam Workshop, you'll get a good idea as to what I'm talking about. Next up, management and data. So there are a ton of management simulation aspects to this game. You can hire janitors who will clean the park for you, they'll clean up vomit, they'll clean up litter, and they'll empty the bins. You have to concern yourself with your staff quite a lot. You'll have people who work as vendors in stalls, you'll have people who work as mascots that walk around the park and try and entertain people. And you'll have to manage 3 things when it comes to them. First up, their experience, so you can train them to get better and better, and it will make them more efficient. You also have to consider their wages. If they work a lot and they're overburdened, they're going to want more wages. So the more staff you hire, the less stressed they're going to be, the more money you pay them, the more happy they're going to be, and the more training you give them, the more efficient they're going to be. So you're going to have to manage all of that. You're also going to have to manage your finances. You can get loans, they have interest rates, you have to repay them over time. The more money you have, the higher a loan you can get with the lower interest rate, which is also a nice mechanic, because in the beginning of the game, you can't just get a loan of $100,000 and build a great park and then hit play. You have to actually build out slowly over time, which I think is a good system. You have to keep an eye on all of your visitors and their needs. Each AI person in the game, you can click on them individually, you can rename them individually, you can follow them along and watch from their perspective what they're experiencing in the park. You can check all of their needs, whether they're hungry, whether they're thirsty, whether they're nauseous, whether they need to go to the toilet, and you can satisfy those needs, which is really detailed and really great. What else is there in terms of management data? When you're building a roller coaster, you can look at heat maps to see what part of the rides are scary, what part of the rides are fun, what part of the rides are going to cause your guests to feel nauseous. If you do have a ride that makes people feel too nauseous, you can build a medical facility that will treat them for it afterwards. There is so much depth here when it comes to its management and its simulation, and when you combine that with the creative tools on offer, it's pretty much the best roller coaster tycoon game ever made. Finally, we've got mod support. As I said before briefly, there is a ton of mod support. The way it works is this. You build an object, you build a setting, you build a scene, you put a bunch of objects and props together, and there are a ton of them in the game, by the way. You put all of those things together and you make your own little set, or you make a bunch of bushes, or you make a bunch of trees, or anything you want, and then you select that all with the marquee tool, and you save it as a blueprint. At that point, you can upload it to the Steam Workshop, or you can use it for yourself. I've used this a lot myself, where I wanted to make a forest in one of the areas I was building, so I put down a bunch of trees and rocks, I saved it as a blueprint, I copied it and pasted it a couple of times, I saved that as a blueprint, and then I just covered the entire map with forest. A very, very quick and easy way to do it. Now, one criticism I do have there is it would be nice just to be able to copy and paste certain objects, and you can't really do that. You do have to turn everything into a blueprint. I understand that design decision, because it means that you have it as a reference later, and you can always go back into your blueprints folder and just pick anything you've made and put it down again. So I do like that, but it would be nice sometimes just to be able to quickly copy and paste without having to open a menu. Another great thing about the game is the amount of rides and the amount of coasters and the amount of themes and just the detail when it comes to making your own unique things. You know, you can build a roller coaster from scratch, as you would expect. You can check whether it's going to be exciting, whether it's going to be scary, whatever, and then you can change the colors of that ride. You can also go into the ride and you can change moments in the ride. So if you have a ride like a Ferris wheel, for example, you can change the patterns and the way that it behaves. You can also change the music for it, and the colors, and the wait time, and how many people it needs to have before it actually starts. You can change the price. For your vendors, you can put lettuce on your burgers or tomatoes on your burgers. It's crazy in terms of detail. It's a beautiful looking game. It has a decent set of game modes for people of all different types who want to play in different ways. The creative tools are basically limitless, and it has fantastic mod support. It's a really, really excellent game. Now let's move on to what's bad about it. So first up, it doesn't have a great tutorial system. It has a couple of pop-ups. They'll come up on the screen and tell you how to move things. You can dig through the controls menu to try and work out a little more. And it does come with 3 very basic video tutorials. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more done here. Now, the career mode does teach you certain things by forcing you to use them. But for those of you who don't want to play that mode, it would be nice just to have a straight up tutorial or a lot more tooltips as you play throughout the game to show you things. For example, you can build square, angular paths, which are more efficient for queues. And for me, I like to use those. Initially, I didn't know they were even in the game. It was under a menu, under another menu, and I had to click a tiny little checkbox to turn that on. I wanted to build plazas. Initially, I didn't know how to do that. So it would be good to have some more depth there when it comes to the tutorials. Obviously, you can go read a wiki or you can go watch some YouTubers. There's also tips and tricks on loading screens, but there aren't a lot of those in the game either, which isn't a complaint, by the way. The loading times are pretty reasonable. But it would be nice to have just more information about how certain systems work, because the game does have a lot of depth and a lot of shortcuts and tools. Another complaint I have is performance. Now, in a game like this, you're going to expect performance issues once you build a massive theme park. It's obvious, the more stuff you put on the ground, the worse the frame rates are going to get. Now, the options menu is very, very scalable, and you will be able to lower the settings as your park gets larger and larger, but do not expect to fill out an entire theme park, even with a 1080 and maintain 60 FPS on Ultra. even high, you're going to struggle in a 1080. And with me personally on a 980, I'm having to get to the point now with big parks where I'm having to lower it down to medium as a preset to get things to run at decent frame rates. This is a problem with these types of games. If you played any game like this, whether it be Cities Skylines or Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, once your park gets large enough, eventually it's going to start hurting your performance and your frame rates. There's not really a huge amount you can do about that, and so the only thing I can really advise you to do is just lower your graphic settings if you want to make super big parks with tons and tons of detail. My final complaint, and it's not really a complaint, it's just I would like to see more of this. So the game has various themes at the moment and a lot of props and walls and building assets that are part of those themes. So you'll have a Western theme, a sci-fi theme, a pirate theme, a standard generic theme park theme. And people have gone in with mods and they've gone in and they've made like Japanese themes and Chinese themes and all sorts of different kinds of cool themes, Star Wars themes. You can do that, right? The tools are available for you to create your own themes. It's just a lot of work. And I would like to see maybe a few more themes added down the road. I'd also like to see some more rides. I'd also like to see some more coasters, just more props, more content. Now, that's not to say it doesn't have a lot of content, because it certainly does for the price. But this game is kind of ripe for DLC. I could see them putting out theme packs. I could see them putting out ride packs, coaster packs. There's tons of stuff in the game already. You've got special effects, you've got animatronics. There's a lot of creative tools here, but it's kind of limitless. They could just keep adding to this forever, really. And I would love to see that, is what I'm trying to say. Right now, I feel like if I make 5 or 6 theme parks, I've kind of run out of base-themed content. And while I can go in there and change and manipulate things, there's going to come a point where I feel like I've exhausted the creative content available to me. At which point, I'm hoping to see some DLC. I'm hoping to see further mod support, not just the ability to upload things I've created in my blueprints, but people to be able to add 3D models to the engine. That would be really great. So, the question is, should you buy a Planet Coaster? And the answer is a resounding yes. If you like management games, if you like creative games, if you like Roller Coaster Tycoon, if you like any kind of game within this genre, you owe it to yourself to pick up Planet Coaster. If you found this video helpful or useful in some way, and you want to support my channel, you can do so in the following ways. You can purchase this game or any other game using my Green Man Gaming referral link in the description box. You can also support me on Patreon. And if you can't do either of those things and you want to help the channel, you can like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps a lot. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.